So we're
Think we're
streaming live.
live.
Hey everyone, we're on the Coach and Flourish podcast. Raj is out this week. We have guest host Hannah Finrow, who's been one of our trainers. Hannah and I, we started. It's been a while, right? When did you took the training? It was 2016, 14.
14, I think, and finished in 15, started training as a trainer in 16,
That's it.
somewhere in
That's why I
there.
remember the 16. So it's been a decade of coaching and
Decade.
training and all of it. And today we're going to look at another coach training session. To me, working with Andrew Petrillo as a client. Andrew was one of my clients, my clients back when I was a coach without not training people yet to be coaches.
Mm.
And so it's and this was back in I was like 2010, 2012. Uh way back in the day. And now he's in his 20s. He took the coach training, and now he's wants to become a coach. And so that's the session we're gonna look at today. Hannah is an MCC coach, one of our trainers, one of our lead assessors. And so we're going to treat this just like any other session where um, she's going to look at all the things and give me feedback on what I'm doing well and not well. And we'll see how far we get. I'm hoping to get through the whole. Um, we'll jump around in this one. I'm not going to do it. I have a 20-minute session with Andrew. We won't listen to all of it here in this podcast, but I think we'll be able to listen to most of it. But welcome, Hannah, and welcome everyone who's watching and listening on the multiple places that this is being live streamed. So here we are.
Thank you. Glad to be here and always game to listen to some coaching.
It's fun. It's good stuff. All right. So should I just jump in? I feel like I should just jump in and just let's do it. Because with Andrew here, I think we edited out my preamble with me just catching up with him. Um, yeah, he's an amazing person. Let's see. Let's see how far we get with this. Here we are. Oh, I gotta go to the very beginning. Let's go to the very beginning. Here we are.
And John, did you make sure to share sound? Because it's really quiet for me.
I wrote down a bunch of things that are right now.
I asked him, how do you want to use our time together? So, okay, let me fix my mic too so I can make sure it is on the right one. Yay. Okay.
Yeah, your sound is good. But usually when you do share screen, there's like that little box that Zoom likes to hide that says share sound.
Oh, really? How do I do that?
So you have to stop the share. And then when you click reshare, it's not in the bottom left now. It's in like kind of the middle of the right-hand side. It says share sound. So you choose the screen and then do share sound.
Oh my goodness.
They like to move that little tiny box.
I remember. Thank you. All right, so this is gonna work. Here we go. Hopefully.
I think like the big vision that I have for my coaching and my coaching business is
I'll start from the very, very beginning then. How do you want to use your time together?
I mean I wrote down a bunch of things that are right now on my mind. I think like the big vision that I have for my coaching and my coaching business is, well, like right now I'm in launching phase, and this summer I really want to host like every week a coaching camp with a small group of students and like a workshop style, and designed with the outcome of like you're going to learn, it's going to be an intensive camp. You're going to learn the ALC tools. We're going to design tools that are going to work best for you. Like you're going to be among like 5 to 6 other students, and you're going to come out with a project for your summer that's going to be in line with what you want to study in college, or something to give you an edge into college. So that's kind of what's like, that's a big vision I have right now. And so and that's what I'm trying to work towards. And I'm in the beginning stages of like creating that foundation. And also like this is totally outside of my comfort zone because I've never done something like this. So I'm really trying to approach it like an engineering project. and just like lay out step by step of like what needs to happen. I think it was really helpful yesterday in the team coaching, and I'm leaning towards like signing up for that just as team coaching, and this camp is going to be very in line with that. So, but yeah, it's outside of my comfort zone. Marketing myself, all of that stuff is very new to me. It's very new. So
Sweet. So what would be the measurement of success in this one?
I think the measure in the camp, I think
In the session.
in this session, okay. Yeah, I think the measurement would be maybe a kind of zoomed out but clear plan of how to get to some like really solid action steps. Yeah.
So clear plan, 3 action steps.
3 action steps, yeah. I think that would be extremely helpful for me. Yeah. But
Sweet.
also like, yeah, I got so much going for me right now. So it's right now I feel like I need to be like super present and in total in the actions that I take, and not kind of get overwhelmed with everything that I'm trying to do. And just do one thing at a time, not look too far ahead, but just, yeah, complete one step and then move on to the next. And then, yeah, just keep building momentum essentially.
What did you learn about yourself in taking risk? What do you think, Hannah?
All right. Well,
How'd I do?
big fan of how you, what do you say?
How did I do?
I appreciate the, how do you want to use the time together right from the start, letting the client choose, take the reins. I know I didn't quite see like the check-in. There's a long relationship here, but I imagine there might be some sort of connection check-in before that, before you ask how do you want to use the time. His answer was really long. So something I noticed was that it might have been an opportunity to ask, what part of the vision do you want to work on today? Or even asking, like inviting the client to get a little bit more specific. Because there's a lot of aspects. I'm curious about, comfort zone. I'm curious about marketing versus marketing yourself. It's very new to me. It's new. So like, what is it about the newness you want to sort through? So I think in here, there could have been a couple questions before going to the measurement of success, like seeing more of what's the work with you today, Andrew. Like what part of you are we working on as we work on this vision? Getting to the measure of success, it was really like interesting how it's like, I just need the solid action steps. I'm really curious about like why that is so important, but getting to the point really quickly on what the client like wants to get out of this. I would say be careful of not like saying 3 action steps versus asking the client, how many action steps would you like to aim for? Or, hey, 20 minutes. How many are we going for? Like that just puts them even more empowered. Again, there's a long relationship, and it might be hey, go to every session. I want 3 action steps. So again, I don't know what that's been. But so far, I mean, it's very efficient in a short amount of time and got a lot from the client. And it looks like what you're doing is kind of going for more of the being and more of the person now. So I'm curious where it goes.
That's all right on. Yeah. Thank you, Hannah. That's like exactly it. It's an interesting thing. I think the thread I'm picking up on is he lays out, I need to market myself. I have a program in mind. What I'm picking up on, the thread I'm picking up on is who is he when it comes to risk taking? Like what kind of, like which version of Andrew shows up when taking risk?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that would be really interesting to ask in the agenda. Like what, because he's talking about comfort zone. So it might be, what do you want to transform about your comfort zone today, Andrew? Right? Like you could ask that in the agenda setting. Like, so your intuition, because he might not be picking up on it, and be really interesting to like, what do you want to explore about your relationship to risk today? Could be really interesting too.
Yeah, I think like that to make it even more transparent, like where I'm going, like where I'm going at with this, to make it even more transparent, I think would be useful.
Yeah, you have a strong intuition, and a lot of like it's I love seeing MCC's coach because like there's like little light bulbs that go off. But think about, we don't want to underestimate the power of our intuition to like ignite the client's intuition. So for example, like, hey, Andrew, as you're talking, I'm picking up on this like idea of risk. What do you think of that? Like just inviting the client to get curious about that could make it even more impactful.
Yeah, he goes into it. He goes into story on this one, which is fascinating. And it's also a known story too, because I mean he's been traveling. He had and all of this is out there in the public sphere of he was a mechanical engineer,
Mm.
he quit his job, pile of money, and he spent a year traveling, like to Nepal, backpacking, India, the US, and now he's back thinking, okay, here I am. What am I doing with my life? Kind of thing. It's amazing. So he gets into that story. We'll go a little into it, but then I want to skip ahead to the 6 minute mark, for the sake of our time here in this live, so that we can get through this whole session in one sitting.
Perfect.
I think I learned that, well, one, nothing that I thought was gonna happen happened. But in a way, it all I think I learned just like how capable I am of being successful in situations, and when I actually truly put myself out there, like in a way that's like me showing up 100%, and that's always created like success. Like for example, on this trip this last year, like huge risk,
I want to go
super
in.
stoked and
He talks about
excited
it a little bit.
and motivated.
A couple stories of risk. We go into the risk. It gets pretty good, but this is just jump ahead a little bit, and then I'm gonna ask a question here in about a minute.
It's like, okay, how do I lead a group of people in that, and create that energy with a group of young people that are teenagers that have, even that high school is looking even so different than when I was in high school 10 years ago. Like so much has changed, and so connecting and creating that energy and that enthusiasm in a small group and leading that space. So that's what I'm really excited about, and that's what I'm excited about to learn about myself, because it's scary like stepping into that. So yeah, it's a place I haven't been. Like I've never led a workshop before. I've taught like 1,000 yoga classes, but working with a group of kids versus like standing in front of a room and teaching yoga, like I'm comfortable with that. Now I have to translate those skills and translate it into a space that's going to be perceived and allow for success among people, that want to learn, or people that don't want to learn.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So
So
using that engineering mind, if breaking this project down, what's step one?
I think like,
What do you think, Hannah? I'm curious.
Well, I know it's a short session. I would say it's too soon to go to action
Right.
or exploring, but I love the idea of like bringing a perspective. So it might be like, what is an engineering mind like? What do they see? Like just like keeping it even more open. Again, I don't know like how you've structured coaching with this person, because like especially I know if I worked with clients for a long time, we do move towards like a laser focused coaching of what are we working on? What's the deeper? Okay, let's map it out. And people that have had long-term coaching, I've had people, I think 5 years is the longest I've had a client. And then I still have had people come back like 5 years later in a different, and they need more of like to the point. So I just want to make the point, like, I don't think this might be what Andrew needs at this point after having a lot of deep learning and coaching. But in a normal session, I would say, let's wait a second, keep it a little more open and stay in exploration. I'm also really curious about really the difference between like yoga and like teaching yoga and teaching kids. Like, what's the belief about that? He's talking about energy and like the enthusiasm. Like, what does that enthusiasm tell you about yourself? Like, there's some feedback he's looking for that connects with his being I'm really curious about. So yeah, I think the perspective and engineering mind is really cool. I would just wait to go to action, depending on the alliance that's there.
Yes, I mean, I brought this thinking like, oh, I wonder what Hannah's going to say about this, because I wanted to make it tangible. I wanted to say, what are we really talking about? I'm not really amped on him taking, identifying and taking this action step. I'm definitely designing action. I'm more
Mhm.
rolling out, I wonder what happens if I ask him an action step or make this a concrete thing. Like, how concrete will it get and be
Yeah.
at this minute mark in the session? Um, but I totally was tracking with you. Like in my mind, I'm thinking, I am about to ask an action step question at minute mark 6. Like that's, no, we don't do those until minute mark, 20-minute session. That's minute mark 15. Uh, but yeah, yeah, I was curious
But
with that.
sometimes it's helpful to purposely throw the client off because it gets the client in new learning and awareness. So like that could also be your intuition, like, well, let's see what happens. The other approach you might have taken too is, Andrew, I'm curious, like, would it be helpful to map out the steps or of this project? What do you think? So we could empower him with the choice. But I get where you're coming from with like, let's just see what happens. Because sometimes we get too predictable as coaches and just even sometimes it's not about like what we do, it's about their response to it. That can be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not in it so that I'm not here designing something thinking that I want him to take the steps.
Yeah.
I want to get his reaction to making it like to any step. And he goes
Yeah.
into it. I mean, he talks about like what he needs to do. So we'll listen for a little bit and then we go a little bit. I'm going to jump to minute mark 12, which is where I feel like he really starts to make it, where we start to work on we go back to the perspective that he wants to take on some of these things.
Sweet.
And then do you have a hard stop in 7 minutes
Nope.
or, okay. Oh, yay. I'll
I can
take pressure.
hang.
I'll take
Well,
pressure
so
off. Yeah.
the like a part of like that my engineering mind is feeling like
You feel him,
when
right?
I've done projects
Yeah.
before, like there's like two aspects of a project, and sometimes like you can work one aspect in parallel of the other. And for me, what feels right for this is like there's two parts. There's the marketing of this and design, and then there's the actual like planning and prep. And the planning and prep doesn't need to be completed before the marketing and like actual like let's get people signed up for this, like let's get this out to the world. And so I can kind of work these two things in parallel, but I think for me, I don't I should be established. I feel like I should be established before I'm fully prepped. like like
Hmm.
people need to know about this before it happens. I shouldn't like go kind of in a linear path on this. If that makes sense. Like if we had a
Right.
Gantt chart and it was just like, okay,
Yeah. Do you feel it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super curious about the contracts with like he said what thousand he's taught 1,000 yoga classes. I'm really curious about the contrast in that kind of mind versus the engineering mind. But his reaction, like, oh, and there's a lot of shoulds. So I'm just really curious about beliefs in here.
Mhm.
Um, and where the shoulds are coming from. But it seemed like he got quieter and was like a little taken aback, which is
Yeah, I know,
what we
right?
get curious about.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to see what his more scientist mind would go with this. Because
Yeah.
I think there's an element of there's definitely an element where I'm super curious about there's a dream here. There's a dream of
Mm.
I want to create a workshop that changes people's lives. Uh, and then my mind is that's lovely. That's good. And what does your A to B mind, what does your mind go from like A to Z, like, we're all this stuff in
Mm.
linear, like, let's get the work done. Where's that in this dream? That's what I'm going for. So he starts talking about Gantt charts. He goes super nerdy about like, hey, this is how this, if I were approaching like an engineering project, this is how I would do this. Um, it does loosen up. Like it loosens up his approach on it. Is it my most elegant coaching? Probably not. Am I missing opportunities? But I can would I send this in as my MCC application recording? I would not.
Well, something I always say to coaches when I'm assessing them is we need to stop thinking about missed opportunities and more so there's always another opportunity, right? So like, yes, there's going to be always, that's what's beautiful about coaching. There's always another question you could have asked, or another angle you could have got at it. So missed or just another opportunity. I think it,
Alternate opportunities. There we
yeah.
go. Here's one. So he goes into the Gantt charts, he goes into this, and then we get to, and then we hit on a perspective that is just, it's like we got it. And so I'll jump to that minute mark 12.
Cool.
And like that's something I never would have expected. And it was so easy because I was super gentle with myself. I didn't
He's talking about on his journey around the world, he started writing a journal, together a couple of books, and he just started really slow. We talked about the gentle start, like Andrew is aware of the term gentle start. So it's this idea of any new habit, anything you want to do, you just start really gently with yourself and then you get there. And this is an example of someone living it in real life. Here we go.
didn't tell myself that I needed to like write a certain amount each day. I just started just like, okay, like this feels good. Like I'm just gonna write just like a couple sentences. And then it just started picking up a little bit more and more. But that like rule of like, okay, I'm just gonna write each day was really, it was really gentle on my mind. It wasn't forced at all. There was no expectations associated with it. And it just really just stuck. And then before I knew it, I had 500 pages and I was like, whoa. Then I had 800 pages and I was like, whoa, like this is now allowing me to see super clearly what's going on in my life. And then I came back, it was 1,000 pages. And I was like, wow, I have my entire trip around the world documented.
That's so
and
rad.
in
So
such a
rad.
simple way. So it's, yeah, when I said, and I think with this workshop, how that's going to translate is like when I start leading workshops, is like, one, be over prepared, but losing the expectations, like that rule of, okay, workshop a week or 2 workshops a week, and just go, even if someone doesn't show up, like just like start making it happen. And not forcing myself, but being in that space where I have to show up, but not with the expectation of what it needs to be. And then learning from what works and what doesn't work, and kind of like not saying, okay, like I need 5 people here. It's like, okay, well, we'll probably get 1. I might get 0. Like that's okay. But then, okay, I'll go back. I'll mark it again. I'll reach out to more people and like, hey, like I'm leading a workshop. This is what it's going to be on, and then being dynamic with it. Like I have a lot of capability and like intuitive. Yeah, I can just like I don't need to prep everything. I just need a structure. It doesn't need to be a certain way, and I think that's where I'll be most successful.
What do you want to call that perspective? It's like gentle with yourself, or what's the, I feel like you have a vehicle that works for you.
Yeah.
We want to call it. Yeah, he just listed off a number of things that worked well for him. Name
Yeah,
it.
I definitely, since you were saying, oh, he's to get to perspective, I could totally see that. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be perfect timing. Because his energy is changing as he's talking about this too. He's like, whoa, and it was like this. And I was just, trusting the process. And so this is what I love this about coaching, where it's like people have the empowered perspectives. It's just the coach's job to help them realize that and just like, hey, like, what is that? So I would say like that, that's just a really cool moment of helping pull that out.
Yeah, this is one where I'm like, yep, this one fits. No modifications. Like just yay, coach.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see. It's fascinating to hear him go into these places. Like it's almost like, because I mean, he and I, like we started coaching together when he was in high school.
Right.
and he's a very well-trained client in the sense that he just had lots of coaching sessions. It just happens. So I think we're also using a little shorthand here too, where it's like, okay, cool, we got a perspective. Like it's a known, it's almost like a known process. Like, okay, cool, we'll get a perspective, we'll name it, we'll get this done. But I haven't met with him in years, like 4 or 5 years. So as a coach coordinator.
Yeah. Coaching is like it's just muscle memory. So there's that.
Totally is. It
It's
totally is.
it's
It's like it's so reminding me of the old times, you know. But yeah, so he names it. We'll get to that, and then we'll jump ahead, and we might even, yeah, we will finish this 21-minute session.
yeah. Cool.
I think just the rules are more associated with the space. So it's like creating the space that I'm going to succeed in. Like
So
it's
cool.
like, okay, I open up my computer, I'm going to journal.
Mhm.
Like, okay, like this is the place that like for example, another rule that I did for myself was, and essentially they're well-formed actions, but this is just how I'm looking at it. It's like when I went to the gym, every time I did abs, whenever I went to the climbing gyms, and then it just became a habit. It just became easy. And so it's yeah, just creating, I think just rules or I don't know, system or space for success in my life, and or places or the rules to show it fully for myself, or yeah, a rule to create. I like that, where it's like, okay, this is where this allows me the ability to use my intuition, use my ability to be spontaneous and dynamic, but I don't have to have expectations with that. To be a goal, it's like a rule to create.
Rule to create. I'm writing that down too.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, yeah.
What do you think, Anna?
Trust in the process. This is when coaches want to jump in and like, I want to rescue you, and I have an idea for a name. Let me help you, right? Like, I have a million ideas, but you kept holding the space, and you could feel him wrestling with it. No, wait, it's not this. It's not. And you're just sitting back. You're like, I know magic's happening. I'm not gonna interrupt it. And then he lands on a rule to create, and it's like you can feel that. So just the power of like space for the client to really do the work and to wrestle. And this is when it's a mark of a masterful coach to let a client wrestle and flounder a little bit and try and find their way and not shortcut it, because the process of finding that is what made a rule to create so powerful. Like I felt the impact of it as he landed on that.
Yeah, even I felt myself now listening, like the urge to jump in, but like just tell them what it is. Tell them the name. Ready? Come on.
Yeah. Sometimes it's more important that they land on it and find it themselves than we name it. Even if you had that same name in mind, I've seen that over and over again, the power of like holding back, which is not easy as a coach. Especially if you have a long-standing relationship with someone, you can kind of see through to things for them. So I think you were very trusting of the process. You gave him that space when it would be easy and very tempting to jump in and help.
Oh, it's good. We have a perspective now. And I feel like I really like it too. Like the rules to create and like everything he's talking about. Because what he's doing is also shifting away from ironically, he's shifting away from the plan.
Yeah.
Like, like it's not about the plan at all at this point. Now it's about creating a habit set for him to have the capacity to do the work, to do whatever plan is put in front of him. So now we're back into hope theory, looking at capacity and pathways as opposed to necessarily even action steps and outcomes. Like it is just, it's almost like it's gone backwards in a sense too. Like you ask an action question, but then we get to a perspective question that then goes to hope theory, looking at, like we are essentially designing a system for him to have space to work on his capacity.
Yeah, I would call this probably the deeper agenda too, right? Like it's not just about this, what it's really about is this. And when we get that being piece, that oh, it's this is the work with me, then the action steps, the actual to-dos like flow so much easier because oh, this is what I needed to move forward and the things I already know I need to do.
Totally. I mean, I wonder if I go that thought like, why did I go 3 action steps? It's kind of niggling in my brain a little bit. Like, why is it there? I was like a little, why is that? Why is this there? Uh, I think it needs to. I don't know. I think it's a little. Mm, I wonder if it's just a placeholder. Because I know we're not really going to get to 3 action steps, and if we did, then maybe that's great. But I think it's almost like a surface agenda, but I'm waiting for a deeper one. I think we got it here.
Yeah. Well, in coaching, like we should always pursue a deeper agenda, but know like that we're holding it and pursuing it all throughout. So coaches listening, like I highly recommend, even if the client doesn't get there and they're more focused on service, you stay curious about it and eventually it can reveal itself later. And that's still just as exciting as if, right from the start, they knew, oh, I need to work on my perspective. Right.
Mhm.
Sometimes this is even more rewarding when it goes from, oh, I thought it was this, but this is what it's really about. This is really the thing that I need to shift.
Wow. Wow, spacing capacity. All right, let's keep it going a little bit. Then I'm gonna jump more. Yeah, let's let it roll.
Yeah.
Sweet.
With my journal, with my workouts, like I can create the workout, but the rule is I have to just start it. Even if it's just like,
Yeah.
even if it's just like a minute of plank, or even if I get there and it's just one person and they only have 20 minutes, like, okay, like this is what we're gonna do. Like now I have space. Like this is my plan, but we're throwing that out the window and we're just going for it. Like what do you want to work on today? Or if it's 10 people, like, yeah. And then finding that and then learning from that, because this past year, that's where I learned the most. Is like once I was in that habitual thinking mode, once it was like once I was doing it every day, then I started going deeper. Then I started growing. Then I started pushing myself, and I was showing up how I show up is I was showing up 100% each time. If I did that, it was just getting better and better. So, but yeah.
How do you want to apply that to marketing?
Yeah, so I mean, it's tough because I'm starting from scratch. And so I think for me, like I think getting a place that I can lead workshops regularly is like first action. And I have people that I can like I've reached out to people know what I'm up to right now. Like moms and I think it's going to be getting parents and their kids to that space. And once they're there, like once it's like, okay, this is a weekly thing, then they can show up. But making it a weekly thing or bi-weekly even, like I just got to be aggressive with it 100%, like throw myself into it.
When's the first one?
The first one
It's good, huh?
next week, February 1st.
February 1.
February 1.
All right.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. That gives me time.
What do you notice shifting, even just writing it down, putting it there?
It feels like it's gonna happen. And that's all I need.
Right.
I need prep, but like knowing it's gonna happen. Like for example, with my trip, it's like I hit a point at my job. I was like, okay, and then I sat down at my desk and I bought a one-way ticket. I was like, all right, this is happening. Like, this is when I'm going. This is when I'm going. I like a lot hasn't been figured out yet, but that's okay. I can work that in parallel and kind of play it by ear and
And for the sake of time, we gotta wrap this one up. So we do with Andrew. I said, okay, great. Action step: put on a workshop in 1 week. and invite his people who he knows a marketing workshop in a week. And we talk about the perspective. We go into a little bit of logistics, but I wanted to keep it 20. We had 20 minutes, so this is a 20-minute session. Curious your thoughts.
Yeah, well, a 20-minute session tends to be more laser focused than an hour session. But what this shows is there can be still like a deeper transformational piece in a short session. So I just want to encourage whoever's listening, you can have a really helpful session with like structure and depth, the next steps, like all together. And I think that's just part of mastery. I think it was really cool to when you asked like, okay, how do you want to apply that to marketing? And then you're asking like what shifted, because that's what I wanted to ask after he just because you can see him shifting. So it's really cool to watch you, like you're waiting with your questions, you're holding some things back. So I think it'd be really interesting for everyone to hear like, how do you choose which question to ask?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No. I think yeah, I mean, I think what's helpful, I did know a couple things like in the coaching journey that made sense. One is when you have multiple questions, when I know, okay, there are at least 3 or 4 questions I could go with at any one point. Like I know like you and I, we've both been uh coaching so much, listening to so much
Mhm.
coaching. Usually there are about 3 or 4 questions that different directions you can go in. Uh, I think a big turning point came when I had more than one question in my mind of this is where I could go. And
Yeah.
now I ask myself, what am I most curious about? What is going to be most useful for the client? That's
Yeah.
it. It's not
Yeah.
much more complex than that. Um, with Andrew, yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, at this point, it's a little bit of putting on a workshop, like putting on a marketing workshop like this is no small thing. Like that's a lot. And he's treating it like it's just another step in a process that he's completely comfortable doing. And we have a perspective for him. Was it rules of success or
Rules to create.
rules to create?
Yeah.
Uh, so we have a good step. We have a good perspective. We have a step to putting on a workshop in a week, which he mentions. And then as a coach, you say, okay, I mean, what's the probability of this going to happen? If you had to guess the probability of this conversation leading to a marketing workshop, I don't know, 50-50. Like,
Well, I see the client's language. I wrote that down. That gives me time. Feels like it's going to happen. What's the difference between it feeling like it's going to happen and it actually happening? Like I might poke at that a little bit, but he said, "Oh, that's all I need. I just need prep." But it's going to happen. Um, so I might ask how confident is, but I don't see like we'll see what happens. That usually would indicate to me,
yeah,
oh, there's not a commitment here. I saw commitment when I heard that.
right.
And you did pull that out when you asked like what do you notice shifting? Because you could see something shifting. And he was able to like name a date and he sounded confident. I know there's a little bit more, but I didn't see we'll see what happens or I might or I'll try or those are certain things I listen for if I'm like, oh, they're not really bought into this just yet. But he says it's going to happen. He went
Yeah,
from in one sentence, he went from it feels like it's going to happen to but I like knowing it's going to happen. Just in that one sentence, I think he went from it feels like it's going to I know it's going to, which was really cool to hear in one sentence from a client.
yeah. He did it. We now know because we're weeks later after filming this, me and Andrew, he followed through. He did the workshop. He did the thing. And he got clients from it. So it's like it's it's mind-blowing to see this, like to think that this session led to the action step of he did the thing. He did the
Yeah.
workshop. And
Oh,
only a couple people showed up, but they signed up. So
yeah. You could be just one session away from changing your life.
reminds me of the one session I did at a library in Portland years ago, back when I was putting on whatever workshop I could give, wherever I could give them. Two
Mm.
moms show up. I got 4 clients from that one session because they each had 2 kids. And
Mm.
you never know. And I gave another one at a big school here in Portland, 80 people, 80 people uh, at Lake Ridge. And I didn't get a single client
Mm.
until like 4 months later. And then one person from that workshop randomly called me and said, I saw you 4 months ago. Do you want to be in that? Yeah. So I don't even know like how you can't predict, but when you're marketing like this, you got in these perspectives, like rules to create, gentle start,
Mm.
try to get reps in, don't, it's not a one-time thing, but it's a, can I do a repeatable system with this?
Yeah.
Andrew followed through. He did the thing.
Well, go, Andrew. We're cheering you on. Something else I noted that I thought was really interesting, I personally kind of wanted to challenge a little bit was he said he's starting from scratch. But like, is he really? Like like that. I often think like workshops are an extension of the work you've been doing. Like you don't have anything. So I might have poked on like, what does it mean to start from scratch? Like what is like nothing? Like, because I think he has a lot. He's realizing, wow, he has a lot. So I might have poked at that a little bit. The other thing I was really curious about, especially as like the part where you asked what's shifting. In the beginning, he had used language of like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to step into. And I wanted to ask, like, what he's stepping into right now, like kind of naming this new like place he's in, because it felt kind of like he like moved through some limiting beliefs and came to somewhere new. And so that was something I wrote down that would be really interesting to kind of name that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
But always more possibilities. That's the beauty of coaching, and why we should
Mhm.
always listen to coaching, because I think we can get so much out of it and see so many, like there's always so many possibilities.
Yeah, it is cool when you can get clients in a tangible space. Like I'm stepping someplace. Like, oh yeah, what is that place? Let's name it. Let's put tangibility to it.
Yeah.
Uh, get a handle for it. Thanks, Hannah. It's fun to
Yeah.
share. It's fun to have you listen to some coaching happening. Uh,
Yeah. Coaches ask me all the time, do you ever get tired of listening to coaching? I'm like, believe it or not, I don't. Like it's so
sure.
fun.
I've
It's
listened
so
to
fun.
boring coaching happen before, but even boring coaching is still interesting.
Is there such thing as boring coaching?
I don't know, but there are sessions where I'm like, oh gosh, like no, like no.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but yeah, it's a good question. I think I don't know. It's I really like listening to coaching sessions. There's something about it, having that set. It's like a conversation with rules, with very very clearly defined rules of, the whole conversation will only be about one person. The other person's going to ask questions and be in that space. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Well,
Fun.
thank you for having me. It's fun to be the fly on the wall, and yeah, just cheering Andrew on. It's do you ever find like do you feel torn between like being a mentor when you're coaching coaches? Like how do you feel? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Like like when I'm listening to coaching, like what's it like to be like listening to other people coach, like coaches coach or
You're well, I mean, you're a coach coaching someone
Mhm.
on coaching. Like, do you ever feel torn between like roles of being a mentor and just staying purely in coach mode? Like when you're coaching someone
Oh,
on something
yeah,
that's
it's a great question. Um, yeah, I mean, after this, the rest of the recording, I said this is a great place to stop. And then I just break it down. Like I've had 2 minutes. Like these are all the ideas I was holding back, Andrew. And I just go boom, 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 really quick, really succinct. Because I did have time pressure on this. I had to get out. I had a hard stop.
yeah.
Uh, and but I think that's the way to do it. That is best practice. is to hold off, not share at all. But then after or outside the session, say, you think, you know what, these 3 ideas I had for you, how do you want to use them? That would be the way to introduce them in a session. But even then, I think it's stronger to hold them off.
Yeah, I agree. Keeping mentoring and coaching separate, even if it's in the same session, but like a distinct piece, like the wisdom's coming from you here and not me. And then like, but I'm not going to hold back my, like, if I have something to encourage you or help you. But well, like mixing it like back and forth is what I would be really careful of, because then you're not getting the full benefit of like sitting and wrestling like we saw Andrew in this, like finding it. So we don't want to jump in like, oh, no worries, I'm the expert here for you. But I do think uh, there's a space for mentoring. It's so helpful to have that outlet, because sometimes coaches know a lot, and if they're working with another coach, that they unknowingly lead because they're trying not to go there, but like they see something and then they can lead. So that's why I think we do have to give it a space if the other person wants, our input.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So thank you, Hannah, and thank you everyone watching and listening to this. Appreciate you. Appreciate the space to do this, and even to talk about the insights we're getting. It's pretty exciting.
Definitely. Thank you to Andrew for sharing his session openly with us too.
Yeah, there's some excellent clienting. Thank you, Hannah. Thanks for being here. We'll have you on again. Let's make it work.
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't
we can
get
hear
tired of
something else.
coaching. So there we go.
If someone wants to demo with Hannah and wants to share it, woo!
Let's go. That would be fun.
Make it fun.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.